Hey, it's Mindy with Astrology.by.love, and I am here today to talk about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. So we just watched them all have a lot of drama play out in court. It was incredibly sad, and so they just had very interesting contacts in their charts, and I wanted to go over I'm going to go over a little bit today about Johnny's, a little bit today about Amber's. If you want to follow along with me, you can go to Astro.dance. I think it also pulls up at astro.com. And Johnny Depp's birthday and birth time is June 9th, 1963. He was born at 8:44 a.m. in Owensboro, Kentucky. And Amber was born on April 22nd, 1986 in Austin, Texas. I do not have her birth time. And so when you don't have the birth time of somebody, remember the moon moves about 14 degrees in a day. So your moon degree is not going to be accurate probably if you don't have somebody's birth time. And also that affects the ascendant. Everything else is pretty much stable. You know, Mercury will move maybe a degree that day. The sun will move a degree. But anyway, so I don't have Amber's birth time. Recently, Johnny and Amber were in court between April 11th of 2022 all the way to June 1st of 2022. If any of y'all out there have ever been in court, 2 days in court is a lot. That's a lot. That's intense. And they did it for a month and a half. So lots of news media about this. There's no way you could have been living in the United States and not heard something about it. One day, one comment, whatever. So anyways, the trial came about because Amber had made statements to the Washington Post indicating she had been sexually and physically abused by Johnny Depp, and that when she spoke up, the Hollywood elites had shunned her and protected Depp. That was the trigger that Johnny needed. He filed a defamation suit against Amber, claiming he had lost millions, like 20 million, from not being able to work at Disney after the article. So during this incredibly long trial, we learned a lot of incredibly sad and negative things about how both actors a little bit grew up and also how they treated each other. This video will probably feel a little bit dark, but we're going over what we saw in court, and that was not a lot of light, bright, and fun stuff. So anyways, a few things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Amber's square from her Mercury in Aries to Neptune and Mars in Capricorn. We're also going to talk about Johnny's double YOD that involves his Sun, South Node, Moon conjunction, and then also Pallas Athena in Chiron. Then we're going to talk about how the two of them interact by looking at their synastry chart. They're similar Venus placements. Their Black Moon Liliths are inconjunct. That's very uncomfortable, 150 degrees. And the two ways we can see in their chart that Amber brings difficulty to Johnny's career. So let's first start with Amber's chart. Let's see here. So this is Amber's chart. And we see that her sun, moon, and Venus right here. So we've got her sun up here in Taurus, and her Venus is in Taurus, and then her moon is down here in Libra. And remember, I don't have her ascendant time, so these houses are not necessarily correct. We're just looking at the planets. But her sun, moon, and Venus are all in Venus-ruled signs. So this is a very Venus-ruled chart. And so Taurus is the part of Venus that's more interested in the sensual and the tactile experience. And the moon in Libra is also ruled by Venus, but Libra is more concerned with visual beauty and manners and a peaceful existence. And Amber is known for being beautiful. She has made money off of being beautiful. That's how beautiful she is, physically beautiful. And money and beauty are both things that, you know, soothe this sun, moon, and Venus placement in her chart. So while Amber's core and her emotions and definition of luxury are Venus ruled, they're also opposite to the way she thinks and speaks. So Amber's Mercury is right here in Aries, and Aries is ruled by Mars. So the Aries Mercury is incredibly impulsive. It's got excellent leadership qualities. It is Mercury in Aries is good about thinking about themselves first, taking care of themselves first, and they are not good about thinking things through before they speak or think. If you know anybody whose Mercury is in Aries, you probably spend time shaking your head at what they say and what comes out of their mouths. They just impulsively, you never have to wonder what they're thinking because they're saying it before they even think about it. It is one of the most impulsive signs. I'd say it is the most impulsive sign of the zodiac, and is normally up for a good argument, any argument really. That Aries Mars drive is just aggressive, and they enjoy debate. So the way Amber speaks and thinks is opposite to how she feels, because the moon is how we feel. And so remember, once again, that luxury, beauty, manners. Libra is concerned about the relationship. It's concerned about others. And so for Amber to feel at peace, she's got to have a peaceful relationship, but her mouth says aggressive things and causes a lack of peace in her life. So, you know, so the way Amber speaks and thinks is opposite to how she feels. And we've seen this play out. I mean, that was when, you know, it came out in court, and I had missed this, but they talked about it quite a bit. So when Amber and Johnny got divorced, Amber got a $7 million divorce settlement. And Amber quickly announced to the media she was going to donate it all to the ACLU and the Children's Hospital. Then she kept most of it when she got it. So keeping the money emotionally felt good to her. That emotionally felt good to her sun, which is our ego, our core, to Venus, her definition of luxury, enjoyed the money, and then her moon in Libra, that also enjoys luxury. Keeping that money felt good. But her Mercury in Aries had already popped off at the mouth, had already made the announcement that, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And, you know, and it wound up, she gave like $350,000 to the ACLU. That's a bunch of money. If she hadn't said anything with her impulsive Aries Mercury, she could have just given $350,000 and everybody would have been, oh my gosh, Amber's so generous. But no, she announced impulsively she was going to donate the $7 million, probably just to spite Johnny. And it wound up causing frustration and drama in her life, because what she says is not necessarily what she feels. So anyway, she did publicly announce that, and like I said, probably to spite Johnny. So Amber's Mercury placement already has a tendency to cause problems. She doesn't want, but it's also square to her Mars and Neptune conjunction. So my software, for whatever reason, doesn't show this as a square, but it is a square. So 6 degrees of Mercury in Aries is 90 degrees. That's what a square is, a 90-degree square to Mars and Neptune in Capricorn. So this is a difficult energy. Anytime you have a 90-degree angle in a chart, it is, it produces, like, something's going to happen there, and it's going to come from a place of frustration. So, you know, it's a hard labor, but it is something that people know about in their lives. So when Mars and Neptune are conjunct, like we've talked about, Mars is the planet of aggression. It is ruled by Aries. So her mouth is already aggressive, getting her in trouble. And so Mars, the planet of aggression and war, is in Capricorn. And when Mars sees something it wants, it goes after it. It runs straight there. And so Mars is really well placed in Capricorn. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, Father Time. And so when Mars is in Capricorn, it has the structure and the endurance to stay with it, to go the distance, to make it happen. It's not going to give up. It's not going to be impulsive. It goes, it's direct, and it accomplishes. However, when it's in conjunction, and remember, a conjunction is when two planets are beside each other, really near each other, like Amber's Mars and Neptune are. So when two planets are conjunct, their energies blend. And so Neptune is a planet, it rules delusion, fantasy. There's no boundaries with Neptune. It's artistic spirituality at best, and at worst, it's confusion in a more negative form. A lot of times that negativity can show up as like fantasy and delusion from alcohol or drug use. So when you combine the two energies of Neptune and Mars, you get a blend that, you know, Mars is our activity, it's energy, it's what we go after. Neptune, the illusion, the fantasy. This is an excellent combination for acting. Amber physically acts out illusions. Movies, you know, rarely are 100% factual. And she was just in that movie Aquaman. We know that's not factual. That's an illusion. That's a fantasy. And so she acts that out. And it also shows that she can have this Mars Neptune, you know, Mars is masculine energy. And so it also shows that Amber can have confusion about men. And when it's square to Mercury, her confusion about men, you know, this Mars to Mercury, Mars Neptune to Mercury, can result in her impulsively saying things that aren't necessarily accurate about men, which, you know, is how this whole trial started. So, you know, Amber had, you know, announced that Johnny was abusive, and that they definitely weren't kind to each other in court, but I don't know that it came out that he was physically or sexually abusive. And, you know, as it came out, I mean, Johnny is, you know, pretty much the face of the abused man now. So that was how court played out. Next, I do want to talk a little bit about Johnny's chart. And so Johnny has 2 YODS in his chart, which if you've watched some of my other videos, I've talked a lot about YODS. So YODS are destiny makers. They're people who make things happen, once again, out of like an uncomfortable energy that like forces production. And so Johnny's got 2 YODS. The first is between his moon, the asteroid Pallas Athena, and Chiron in his 8th house. And then the sun is also in conjunct his south node moon conjunction here, and it plays back to Pallas Athena. So there's 2 YODS, and Pallas Athena and the moon are a part of both of them. So a YOD is when 2 inconjunct angles, just real quick to go back over it. So a YOD is when 2 inconjunct angles come together to form an apex. An inconjunct angle is 150 degrees. So it's 2 signs that don't really have anything to do with each other. It's not a comfortable connection, and they really don't communicate well. And so, you know, and so let's talk about these 4 points. So Johnny's moon is, you know, we're going to talk about his moon because they're involved in both. So Johnny's moon is right here, 13 degrees of Capricorn. It's in the 6th house. And so the moon in a chart shows us about our mothers. It shows how we handle our emotions. It shows the kind of person that we think is marriage material, or, you know, the kind of people that we would like to marry. The moon in Capricorn is not a really great placement for the moon, though. Capricorn energy is interested in getting things done rather than feeling any of their emotions. If you have a Capricorn moon, your mother was more concerned with your behavior and making sure that you made her look good rather than, you know, Capricorn moon, you know, your mother didn't care about your feelings. She only cared about your behavior, how you acted. Capricorn moon probably schedules their breakdowns. The emotions just aren't fluid. They can't cry in public. They have got to schedule a time. It's quick, it's short, you get over it. You know, a lot of repressed emotions with a Capricorn moon. And this, you know, these are the kind of women that Johnny is naturally attracted to. This is similar to what his mother was like and what he thinks of as marriage material. With the moon in the 6th house is known as our house of daily routines, health routines. You know, pets are in the 6th house because they're part of our daily lives. It shows that the moon there, Johnny would feel better, like more emotionally stable, having his mom or wife in his life on a daily basis. That doesn't mean it will happen, but he would feel more emotionally harmonized that way. However, Capricorn moons, whether their wives or mothers are there in their daily lives in the 6th house or not, are rarely emotionally harmonized if work and money aren't going well. So, you know, once again, that was one of the triggers of this trial, is that Amber's statements were detrimental to Johnny's work life, and he had to act. He had to make work and money good in order to feel better emotionally. I mean, you know, he said several times this trial was about his reputation. So, I mean, you know, remember Johnny said he had lost over 20 million not being able to work at Disney. And so anyways, back to the 6th house though. Ancient astrologers did not refer to the 6th house as the house of daily routines, you know, or health and stuff. Ancient astrologers referred to the 6th house as the house of slavery. And while slavery is not something that really abounds in our modern world, you know, there is a dominance hierarchical energy in the 6th house. So, you know, it shows that Johnny likes to be in charge or have someone in charge of him. And whenever an energy is there, it can play out on both sides. So, you know, at some point, Johnny has, he said in trial that he felt like he had to take care of his mother. And, you know, so that is a reverse of a hierarchical position. And then, you know, there were times, of course, that his mother dominated him. And, you know, there is a pretty large age difference between Johnny and Amber. And that also shows a power imbalance just in the age difference alone. So when a transiting planet passes over another planet or point in the chart, it triggers the energy of that planet and all the other points or planets that are in relation to it. So when, say, Mercury's currently in Gemini. So when Mercury transits over Johnny's sun, it's going to activate all these YOD points. So, and I just mentioned this because 8 days before trial started, the sun and Mercury in the sky were very close to Johnny's Jupiter in his chart, which is up here in his moon. So Jupiter, so the sun and Mercury in the sky were highlighting his Jupiter, which uncomfortably blesses the two YODs in an uncomfortable way for Johnny. So the blessing of Jupiter was there. It was triggered. It squares, Jupiter squares these YOD points and triggers it as well. So it's included in all that. And, but it does it in an uncomfortable way. And Johnny did get his reputation back. I mean, being in court for 6 weeks is, I can't even imagine the level of uncomfortability that would take. But it was blessed and it was there. So, so the next point we're going to talk about, in court, we heard Amber, you know, in her promises to donate the money and how she considers herself to be an activist. Johnny has the asteroid Pallas Athena in his first house. So that is one of the odd points. So right here is Pallas Athena. And Pallas Athena was born out of Zeus's forehead. She was a strategic and beautiful warrior who was wise. So she went against the grain, fought for underdogs, and always made it a point to right wrongs. In our day and age, we would have called Pallas Athena an activist. So Pallas trines Johnny's Jupiter, but it's also in conjunct his moon. So there is a friendly relationship from Pallas Athena right here to Johnny's Jupiter right over here. So that's, the Jupiter blesses it. He is drawn to activists. He likes activists. It makes him feel good, brings him abundance, but Pallas Athena is also in conjunct the moon. So a lot of times when we have inconjuncts in a chart, it's an uncomfortable energy that's inside. It's an interior energy that's building, kind of wrestling up. And when it has, you know, another in conjunct with it, the energy just explodes. It comes out at inopportune times. We see it, it's uncomfortable, and it doesn't mean to happen, but it's something that builds and builds and builds. And like that interior friction, like just, you know, causes it to come to a boiling point. So anyways, Johnny does like activist women, even though it makes him feel emotionally uncomfortable and a little bit insecure. So the third point in this yod, though, is the asteroid Chiron. Chiron, right here in Johnny's 8th house, the 8th house of known secrets. So, and it's in conjunct Pallas Athena and then the moon. So Chiron shows us where our weak spots is. It's the planet, it's the place where we've been hurt or that our boundaries are weak. And it's also a place where we want to rescue people from this hurt because we've experienced it. And it's also the place where we could also intentionally or selfishly hurt people in this way. So Chiron is in Johnny's 8th house. The 8th house is the house of known secrets. It's the stuff we know about, but it's not really appropriate to tell others. So this includes taxes, real estate, other people's money, sexual relationships, addictions. And this is also the house that would tell about abuse from a partner. So, and, you know, while Johnny, you know, wasn't a perfect husband, you know, like I mentioned before, he came out of this trial as basically the face of the abused husband. And this is definitely part of the Chiron in the 8th house energy. The other part of this is that Chiron is in Pisces, which at best could indicate a spiritual healer. A spiritual healer in its best and most enlightened form. Pisces is ruled by Neptune, the ethereal, the spiritual, the creativity, and Chiron is known as the wounded healer. At its worst, though, Pisces also, you know, and Neptune shows that delusion and illusion. Neptune was the ruler of the high seas, and it, you know, at worst it would show, you know, the house of secrets and addictions. At worst it would show alcoholism, which, you know, at one point in the trial, an attorney was asking Johnny about his drinking, and the attorney asked Johnny, he said, you know, there's been claims you were spending $30,000 a month on alcohol. And Johnny laughed and said, was that it? He said, I'm sure it was way more than that. I was like, 30,000 on alcohol. Wow. So that is an excellent example of Chiron and Pisces in the 8th house playing out in its more negative and unfortunate forms. So anyways, this is the third point of that yod between Pallas, Athena, Chiron, and Johnny's moon. So the second yod is between Pallas Athena, the moon, and his sun. So let's see here. So here's the sun right here in Gemini, and there's his moon in Capricorn, and then Pallas Athena in the first house. So Johnny's sun in Gemini is in the 11th house. The sun is our identity, it's our ego, it's the core of who we are and who we want to be. Gemini is a mutable air sign and needs constant mental stimulation to feel most alive. Meditation does not appeal to Gemini energy at all. So Gemini energy, a Gemini sun, would enjoy a good debate about meditation and the best way to do it and all the ways to do it and what you could do here and where you could do it, how you could do it. They would like to talk about it and debate it, but actually doing it is not probably ever going to happen. So meditation for a Gemini sun would just be way too boring. Not be able to handle it. They need that mental stimulation. Communicating and thinking with their hands gives the Gemini sun their energy. So this is the sun most likely to talk with their hands. And Johnny's sun being in the 11th house, Johnny feels more energized at parties. So the 11th house is your chosen friends. It shows, the networking events, the clubs you belong to, the groups of friends you choose to hang out with. These are not people who just happen to be in your vicinity. These are the people you make an effort to be with. You call them up, you're like, hey, let's get together. And so this shows that Johnny's energized at networking events, club meetings, and, like I said, parties. However, whenever Johnny is at his best at a party, it triggers these two YODS. So when he is getting energized, when he is the life of the party, being his best self, feeding his ego, it triggers these YODS. And so he becomes uncomfortable expressing his emotions because the sun has that uncomfortable aspect to the moon. It then makes him, while he's attracted to activists, it makes him more uncomfortable talking to them while being attracted to them, while bringing it in. And then it goes and triggers the Chiron in the 8th house, which is the drinking. So it all works together. And so anyways, those are Johnny's two YODS. And so finally, I want to talk about Amber and Johnny's synastry. So that's the way two people get along together. We can see how their charts interact and know about energies that they'll be dealing with and that are likely to play out. As mentioned, they have the same Venus placements, and Johnny's Mercury is also in the mix. So here we go. We've got Johnny's chart on the inside because I know his birth time. And then Amber's chart is on the outside. And so we're basically seeing how Amber's energy is affecting Johnny. Since we don't have her birth time, I set it up this way. So you can see that Amber's Venus is at 25 degrees of Taurus. And we've got Johnny's Venus at 26 degrees of Taurus. And his Mercury is also at 25 degrees of Taurus. So all these energies are within 1 degree of each other. That's incredibly close. And these are personal energies. These are, unique. This is not like Saturn and Uranus and Pluto. Those energies have to do with a generation, but the planets that are closer to the sun that move the quickest, those are unique personal energies. So these are personal energies that Johnny and Amber share. Mercury is the planet. It tells us how we think, tells us how we speak, how we like to travel, tells us a little bit about our siblings, and Mercury is ruled, and also how we use our hands. So Mercury is ruled by Gemini and Virgo. So you just heard a lot of that energy with me talking about Johnny's sun in Gemini. And the planet Venus, remember, is also ruled by Taurus and Libra. So both of their Venuses are well placed in Taurus. There's not an unusual or hard or frustrating energy there. And the planet Venus, remember, shows us, our definition of luxury, fun, women who we're attracted to, and also our money and how we feel about money. So I like to call the Mercury-Venus conjunction your mind on your money and your money on your mind. But it's really much more than that. So yes, Johnny's mind is on his money, But it's also on fun, it's on luxury, it's on women, it's on how best to have a good time and how best to do all this within his circle of friends. So he, you know, with Amber's Venus falling right there in Johnny's 11th house, Johnny and Amber had the same version of a good time. These are people who, you know, they definitely partied together. And, you know, so another thing that I need to mention, though, there is a star there called Algol. And I know y'all have heard me talk about Algol before in other videos, Algol. So it's the root word for alcohol and ghoul in the English language. And, you know, just hearing those, y'all know this isn't a pretty star. Ancient astrologers considered this star to be the most evil star in the sky. And William Lilly, a 13th century astrologer, considered Algol to be so powerful that any planet or point within 5 degrees of Algol was affected by it. Now, Algol isn't all bad. So it's also a star that brings wealth and a bit of chaotic creativity, a mad artist, so to speak, which is kind of what acting is. So the sign of Taurus, where the sign is, Taurus is ruled by Venus, is very sensual, very stable. Taurus is a fixed sign. But then you get to the last 10 degrees of Taurus, and it's affected by Algol. And all of a sudden that energy becomes erratic, unstable, and you have a sort of evil genius who has a knack for buying winning lottery tickets. So Johnny's mind, his Mercury being right there by Algol, is a bit wild, yet very financially capable and artistic, while being attracted to women who are a little mad and unhinged. So this is actually good for these two when it comes to compatibility. It's not strong enough to be a make or break connection, but it is fun to enjoy life the same way that your partner does. And that's, you know, Johnny and Amber had that. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is I also found it interesting that their Black Moon Liliths were inconjunct. So an inconjunct, it's also called a quincunx. Like, both are kind of a mouthful. Those angles are 150 degrees. So we talked a little bit about it before. When planets or points are inconjunct, like this is Johnny's Black Moon Lilith, and this is Amber's right here. So Amber's is in the sign of Gemini. Johnny's is in the sign of Scorpio. You know, Scorpio feels deep emotions, likes to be loyal, likes the same thing, likes to know what's coming. And Gemini needs that constant mental stimulation. These two signs really don't get along, and they're not comfortable with each other. And so, anyways, their Black Moon Liliths are inconjunct. That's the 150 degrees. And the Black Moon Lilith is the point in the sky, the point of the moon that was darkest at the time that we were born. And so it shows that's the part of us that it's like a dark fantasy. It's the part of us that wants something that we don't think it's okay to want. It's our desires that really make us uncomfortable, that, you know, we're fine never telling anybody about it. Something about it makes us cringe, but we want it and we're fascinated by it. And it's not easily shown or talked about. So Johnny's Black Moon Lilith is in the 4th house. It's near Neptune. And, you know, it's in the sign of Scorpio. And Scorpio rules the planet Pluto. Scorpio is a very controlling sign. Johnny's Black Moon Lilith is also closely sextile his Mars and Pluto conjunction. So a sextile is 60 degrees. And we can see that right here. Here's Mars and Pluto sextile the Black Moon Lilith, so that's 60 degrees. And how this probably plays out, because Black Moon Lilith is rarely straight. A person is rarely going to say, oh my God, this is what makes me incredibly uncomfortable and vulnerable, but I desire it and I think I'm going to get made fun of for wanting it. People don't come out and say this stuff. So, you know, I'm going to tell you, I think what Johnny's Black Moon Lilith is showing us is that Johnny's desire is probably to be very controlling and dominating, especially in the home, obeyed and served, which is uncomfortable for him to talk about, especially since he has a thing for activists. I was shocked in court hearing Johnny tell the story about how when he would get home, Amber, the activist, would have him sit down on the couch and she would get down on her knees and take his shoes off and give him a glass of wine. That was almost uncomfortable to me hearing about. And I don't like feet. So anyways, this went on for 1.5 years, and Johnny tells the story, and he said when she first did it, he thought, wow, like, this is great. Like, it'd probably make me uncomfortable, a man doing that. But Johnny thought it was great. And so Amber did that every day for 1.5 years. And so at the end of the story, it's been 1.5 years, and Johnny comes home and Amber's on the phone and she's, putting together a deal for a movie, and, it's a very important phone call. And so Johnny sat on the sofa for a little bit and he was like, I'm a grown man. I can take my shoes off. I can get a glass of wine. So he goes and does that. And he comes back and he's sitting on the sofa, and Amber eventually gets off the phone and comes in. And according to Johnny, she just totally flips out. She's like, what are you doing? That's my job. How dare you do that? And that really surprised Johnny. But all this to say, Black Moon Lilith in the home in Scorpio, sextiling the Mars and Pluto in Johnny's chart. I think Johnny enjoys being the man of the house and being controlling and telling what to do, even though that does make him uncomfortable. And so what's interesting, Amber's Pluto is right in line, less than a degree, about 0.5 degree right there from Johnny's Black Moon Lilith. And that was Amber getting on her knees and taking those shoes off and bringing him wine every day. That was her way of controlling the situation. Johnny may have seen it as being subservient, but Amber really was being, it was control and manipulation, which is what Pluto does. She was also super focused on this. And so we've talked about Johnny's Black Moon Lilith. Amber's Black Moon Lilith is in Gemini. So, and it is near her Chiron. There's something super uncomfortable about this with Amber. And Amber's Black Moon Lilith in Gemini, while I don't know her time, it does fall in Johnny's 11th house. And so while Johnny and Amber are good to party together, I think Amber's Black Moon Lilith shows that she is turned on by intellectual debates. We've already talked about this being Johnny's strong point. That's his sun. His sun in Gemini likes to debate among his friends. And I think Amber's turned on by intellectuals, even though she's got this impulsive mouth that's not very accurate with facts. And I think it's uncomfortable for her to be like, I'm an actress, I'm beautiful, but intellectual debate is what I really like. And so when we look at, Johnny, who likes activists, but really wants women to be subservient, and Amber, who, is impulsive with inaccurate speech, this 150-degree angle between their Black Moon Liliths is really a struggle for both of them. So, and then finally, about to wrap this up, so the 2 ways that Amber's chart makes Johnny's work life more difficult. So we see here, we've talked about Amber's Mars and Neptune conjunction over here in Capricorn. It's also in line with Johnny's moon. So it is very likely and very probable that Amber would have delusions about what was going on in Johnny's heart and attack him for it. That's what this is. Mars is aggressive towards the energy, and with Neptune there, we see that play out that way. And your moon, especially in the 6th house. So the 6th house, like I said, daily routines in a work house, And Johnny's moon there, your moon can also, you know, show a little bit about what you do for work, how you produce money. And so Amber's aggressive towards that, delusional towards that, not happy with that. And then the next way we can see that, Amber's Jupiter is right here in Johnny's 8th house of other people's money, other people's secrets, blessing it, expanding it, but it's about 1 degree away from Johnny's Chiron. So we've talked about how Johnny's Chiron is expressed for a long, long time with his drinking. I mean, over $30,000 a month of alcohol is excessive drinking. And even if it's, I mean, it would have had to have been the best wine, the best tequila, the best everything still. And so Amber's Jupiter there expands that drinking, that hurt, that addiction, that keeping that secret. And so, you know, if you're drunk all the time, you're not able to do your best work. You're not able to remember your lines. You're not able to show up to work on time. And so not only was Amber's Jupiter expanding that Chiron, once again, it's setting off Johnny's 2 YODS, because here's his Chiron, the 2 YODS in the worst possible way. Maybe not the worst possible way, but definitely expanding that energy. And these two just should have stuck to having parties together. So anyways, I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. It was fun going over Amber and Johnny and how their charts interacted and how we see them. So I appreciate you hanging out with me. Like and subscribe. I'll get out more videos soon. Thanks.